wanted to share with you a little bit about my story of coming to faith. So I want to take you back with me. Come with me on a journey back to 2018. May 2018. So that's 4 years ago this month. And I was 26 years old at the time. I had a lot less grey hairs than I have now. That's why I was wearing my sunglasses on my head that fell off. And at the time, I wasn't a Christian, so I didn't go to church. I didn't identify as a Christian. So it was Saturday night. I was at my friend's house. I was having dinner with her. We were having drinks. We were having fun. And she said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to church. Would you like to come with me? Now, I probably would have said no, because the thought of waking up early on a Sunday morning to come to church after I've been working hard all week, it was not my vibe. It really wasn't my vibe at the time. But because I was staying at her house that night and we were going to be together the next morning anyway, I was like, sure, I'm open. Why don't we just go? So we went to this church in London. We rocked up. The band was playing. People were singing. Basically like what we've been doing so far this morning. And I looked at my friend. I was standing here. My friend was standing beside me. And I looked over at her. And I could see that she had tears in her eyes. And I'd known her for quite a while, and I'd never seen her cry or be that emotional. And so I'm kind of, looking around, sussing out the room, and other people were there, raising their hands. You might have seen some people do that this morning, doing this. And I realized, wow, something is, going on here. Something's happening for these people. And I realized that they really believed. They really, really believed in God. And I was still figuring things out. So later that day, when I had a moment to myself, I decided to pray to God. Now, I'd prayed before in my life. Maybe I'd say, could you help me find a job? Or could you help me with this? Or could you help me with that? It was more like an ad hoc kind of basis, But this day, I was like, I just want to know if God's real. I just needed to know for myself. So I prayed something along the lines of this. I prayed, God, if you're real, if you're really there, if you, show me who you are, and I'll come to you. Just show me who you are. And I prayed that. So over the next 7 days, something began happening in my heart, and my world started shifting. 7 days go by, so it's the next Sunday. And I woke up in the morning, doing my usual long lie, Sunday morning, chilling in bed, looking at Instagram, and suddenly I heard a voice. Now, it wasn't an audible voice, but it came out of nowhere, and it was so clear in my mind. And the voice said, focus on your purpose. Focus on your purpose. And then I got this feeling come over me that I needed to go back to that church. And then I jumped out of bed like a crazy person, this feeling like I need to go back to that church and I need to go back now. So I jumped out of bed. I didn't even have time to shower. How gross is that? And I made my way back to this church. And because it was on the other side of London, it took me ages to get there. When I got there, it was halfway through. If you know me, you'll know being late is not an uncommon thing. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. But I went in, and the church was packed. So I tried to find a seat downstairs. It was full. I went upstairs, tried to find a seat, and I couldn't find one. And there was a lady who was on the welcome team, the hospitality team. And she spotted me, and she saw I was struggling to find a seat. And she was like, come here, come with me. And she moved some people around and was like, there you go, take a seat. So I sat down, and there was a man on stage speaking, just like the same way I'm talking to you right now. And he was giving a talk on purpose. And I sat there and listened, and although there were hundreds of people in the room, it felt like every word he said was just for me. And at the end of the message, he said, if you feel this message was for you, come and receive prayer from someone on our prayer team. I had never received prayer in my life. This was a foreign thing for me. But I knew I had to respond. Something in my heart was like, I need to respond to this. So I got up out of my seat. I was thinking, people must think, who is this chick? What is she doing? And I was shaking, and my heart was pounding. But I knew I had to respond. So I felt the fear, and I did it anyway, and I went down and got prayer. And this girl, she came over to me, and she prayed for me. And as she was praying, I felt this light coming into my body. I felt this overwhelming flood of love flowing into my body. A peace, a love that I'd never experienced in my life. This was my moment of encountering the Holy Spirit. So I left that church that day. I'd walked in not 100% sure, and I left knowing God is real. He answered my prayer, and I was filled with the Holy Spirit. Jesus changed everything for me that day, and he changed everything for me since that day. That's what Jesus does. He changes everything